Well, they took my money again. This time in the form of Marvel Studios' Spider-Man No Way Home Electro. Although the box labels it as Marvel's Electro. I'm not sure what the other character in media whose name is Electro. I'd have to look that one up. But anyway, we have Electro from Spider-Man, specifically Spider-Man No Way Home in his Marvel Legends form in the box. The timing of getting this actually ended up being pretty perfect because I had just recently watched No Way Home again a few days ago, last Saturday, and it had been a few years since I'd seen it. I love No Way Home. That's such an awesome experience of a movie. It's Spider-Verse gimmick, bringing over the Spider-Men, of course the Spider-Villains, Electro being one of them from the Amazing Spider-Man 2 from 2014. Seeing him again in his upgraded form, that was nice. So it was fun to rewatch that movie again. But then in the store, I had seen this for a few months now. They had the Spider-Man No Way Home Electro, and I had been tempted to get it because I did like the look of it, but just wasn't really motivated until watching the movie again, where I figured, well, why not? Especially since I was able to get it at a discount price. It's normally $39.99, but I was able to get it at a discounted price at $28, its final price. So I was like, well, for what it is, it's okay. Normally Marvel Legends that are kind of a normal size figure are going to be $24, so $39.99 seemed a bit much for that. I think the extra price is because of all the extra stuff it comes with. Mainly got the electricity, some major electricity spikes that you see there. I'm not sure that should have made it cost $39.99. I'll showcase it in a little bit when we do some size comparisons. Another Marvel Legends Spider-Man figure that costs $39.99, and you can see which one is worth more. But we have Electro from Spider-Man No Way Home in his final form. You see in the box, when we got to the end of the film, he kind of received his final upgrade that looked a lot better than how he looked from Spider-Man. What was that? The Amazing Spider-Man 2, where they had just kind of that weird, dumb Watchmen, Dr. Manhattan blue look that was just very generic and didn't invoke any of the spirit of the original Electro design when it came to the green and the yellow. They got that down in the Spider-Man No Way Home version, where they kind of upgraded all the villain designs, notably Green Goblin and Electro. I'll showcase a little bit more of the costume when we actually see it, but you see that, yeah, it's got his basic thing going on, where that kind of a makeshift electrical mask that he had at the end of the movie, where that kind of invokes the spirit of the original Electro, so that looks nice. I want to see if that mask can actually come off, because it doesn't really show anything to where it can come off. I hope it can, just so he had a decent amount of scenes in his final form where he did not have the mask. That would be cool to be able to show that off. And again, the electricity spikes that you have there, an extra set of hands so he can actually hold the electricity, I'm guessing. So that's it for his packaging on the front. See Spider-Man No Way Home logo right there. Some cool artwork of, if my thing will focus, there we go, of Electro. That's some great box art right there. That's looking very nice. Jamie Foxx as Electro, returned from the Amazing Spider-Man 2. And we have the back, which will give some more artwork and a description. It says, brought from another universe with Doctor Strange's spell, Max Dillon comes back stronger than ever, as the electricity manipulating villain. Should be noted that I don't think they ever say the name Electro in No Way Home. Everyone knows it's Electro, but they just call him Max when he's in the universe. They never say the name Electro. It's a little unfortunate, but that's just a little minor detail there. So that about does it for the packaging. That artwork looks pretty cool. So I'm gonna open it up and see what exactly we have going on here. So now I have Electro outside of the box, but still in his plastic protection unit. I wanted to showcase this off because this is the way you do a Marvel Legends box, where it just comes out so easily, where all you have to do is just cut off the tape that's on the bottom, and then everything can just perfectly slide right out. So that way, if you wanted to put it back in the box for some reason, for display or whatever, it's easy. And unlike some other Marvel Legends, like a Marvel Legends X-97 Wolverine I got recently and did a review on the channel for, you don't have to take apart the whole box essentially. So that's very nice, how you can preserve it in that kind of way without making a damn fool out of yourself or the box. I'll just keep that displayed right there. So here's Electro in the plastic protection. You see it has all the accessories he comes with. There's nothing really extra that was hidden from the box. So let's take it out and see what we got going on here. So with Electro now out of his plastic protection unit, we can get a better look at him, see all the features, and take a look at that. I mean, that's some pretty damn good detail in terms of how he looked. And you can see just the intricacy behind the costume. He has all these kind of wires, holders, things to give him kind of that powered up mode. When we see him at the end of the movie, when he's carrying the arc reactor and, you know, looking different than the kind of fireman costume that he was wearing after he was butt-ass naked, to quote him, when we first see him in the movie. Only issue that I initially see is that the arc reactor that's supposed to be right here that he gets from Happy Hogan's apartment, you know, it's just painted in grayish silver. It doesn't really distinguish itself as the arc reactor. That was a notable feature about his costume. That's unfortunate, but I do like that they really have all of these, you know, just all these panels that he's got to really give him that powered up look that we saw at the end of the movie. Really does feel very detailed. In terms of comparing it to the original Electro, you know, Electro's classic thing in terms of his look is that those colors, the green, the yellow. Obviously, they give him plenty of yellow throughout this. The green doesn't really come across as all that green when you actually see this figure. It looks more black than anything, maybe a slight tint of green. In the movie, it did seem like you felt or looked that you saw that there was a bit more green. That doesn't really come across as such, the look at this figure, but maybe that's just how the movie looked and I'm not really remembering it right. But the thing I was very curious about was this mask right here. With this mask, my camera would focus, his electricity mask, would it be able to be taken off? And the answer is no, that mask is stuck on there. And that's unfortunate because, you know, even though this was his powered up look at the end of the movie, there are of course a lot of shots where he doesn't have the mask, where you just see, you know, plain regular looking smooth Jamie Foxx. So it would have been cool if you had that option to take it off. I probably would have had it in terms of display more often than not without the mask, just because he only has this mask thing when he's like doing an electrical charge. But when he's just flat out just straight talking, or obviously at the end of the movie when he's cured, he doesn't have the mask. So that's unfortunate that that's not there. I think that would have been a really nice touch to give it. It really should have been there, to be honest. That's kind of unacceptable. That's not there. I don't know if there was just a practical thing where they couldn't find a way to have it where he was unmasked, but you could take the mask off without there being a bunch of indents on his face. But with the mask look, that does look good. It was kind of cool for the movie. They were able to incorporate the look of the original Electro's design when it comes to the mask in the film. That's the thing with Electro, or just kind of that original design. It's always going to be tough for some of these comic book costumes to translate in a traditional kind of non-goofy kind of way that's expected for comic books movies now. You always just hope they can invoke kind of the spirit or just general idea, and they did that here with the kind of mask kind of look. I think it's about a smarter thing you can do for an Electro design if you wanted to include the mask without going full-on Goofy's, you know, 60s comic book looking style. So that's cool in itself, or that looks fine. In terms of a size comparison, the only kind of relevant one I can do is this one right here, next to Marvel Legends Spider-Man from No Way Home. This is called the integrated suit from our Spider-Man, specifically, of course, our Tom Holland Spider-Man from our Sacred Timeline universe. You see how these guys compare right next to each other. And that's a pretty good size comparison, as it should be, because I think these were designed to directly scale with each other. This one just sells for regular Marvel Legends price. I got this one at a major discount, though. That was nice. This one being $39. You see that it's just kind of the same size as other Marvel Legends. So my camera could focus a little bit better. Hold up. Let me push it back a little bit. Let me try moving this out of the way. There we go. I just had to get my camera to There you go. I just had to get my camera to focus a bit better. But there's that comparison right there. You see that, for this costs $39, it's no bigger than your regular size Marvel Legends Studios figure. This is the only direct comparison I can do with the actual No Way Home Marvel Legends. It's the only one I have. A motivation I got behind getting this, something else that convinced me, is that, well, if I get this, all I need to get is the Lizard, and I have the main group of villains from the movie. Not specifically from the No Way Home edition, but in previous years, like 2 decades ago, I have the OG Green Goblin from Spider-Man 1, I have Doc Ock from Spider-Man 2, Sandman from Spider-Man 3, I have Electro now from No Way Home, and I know recently they just came out with a Marvel Legends Lizard from No Way Home, of course from the Amazing Spider-Man originally, brought over to No Way Home. So once I get that, I'll have the Sinister 5, wasn't quite a Sinister 6, but that'd be cool to have all those guys together. I don't have those other Marvel Legends figures from the other Spider-Man films in my apartment right now, but if I ever get the Lizard, I'll be able to make sure I get all of those guys together and I can do a really cool comparison. That'll be fun to see. But from what I remember, all these guys should scale pretty well. So that's how he scales with a direct No Way Home figure. That's a perfect comparison right there. But a scale that would actually showcase how he compares to another Marvel Legends figure that's $39.99 would be this one right here. I just have to get it ready because this is going to be a pretty big one. Make some room, fellas, for Marvel Legends Carnage from Venom Let There Be Carnage. There we go. So you see how this guy, show him down here. Yeah, there's Carnage from the Venom sequel. How he just towers over these guys, Spider-Man and Electro. As he should, because Carnage from that movie was pretty massive, or just very tall. But this Carnage costs $39.99. But I feel like that's a lot more justified when you see all of the stuff that it comes with. Just the normal base figure is Carnage, who's already a pretty tall character compared to your normal Marvel Legends. But you see all the back spikes that it comes with to give him that look. You've got interchangeable hands, where you see this is his kind of giant axe kind of hand. It came with another hand. It came with another shorter kind of axe. So with all the features that it came with, I feel like this one you could justify a $39.99 price. This looks nice, but given how it's the same size as your normal Marvel Legends, I'm not sure this should have cost $39.99 unless that extra price just went into all the kind of extra details that it has when it comes to these wires and panels and all that. Again, this looks nice, but for the price, I think I'd want something that's a bit bigger. That's how I can normally justify a price for a Marvel Studios figure. So that's that comparison right there in terms of, yeah, this definitely seems more $39.99 worthy. This right now, not so much, this Electro. But Electro just doesn't come by himself. As we saw before, it comes with these extra electricity kind of props you can use to give him that real powered up look when he's battling those Spider-Men at the end of the movie. It comes with the interchangeable hands right here, where I'm assuming it's got some holes in them that you can put to have his electricity be going. No, actually, no, I don't see any holes in the palm of these hands. I think you can see it right there if the glare's not working or whatever. But yeah, there's no hole to go in there. So that makes me wonder, how does the electricity even go in there? Maybe there's a unit on the side or something like that. I'm gonna open it up, hopefully figure it out, and I'll showcase what that looks like. So as far as I could see, I could not find any official place to put these electricity units. You see that they're very soft and flexible, which I guess is nice, so they're not too heavy. I was kind of wondering how heavyweight they would be, so they don't weigh him down or anything. That's nice. But in terms of where to put them, I'm just not really sure where, because there's no like port or anything where these go directly into. So I'm not sure what the intention, what they want you to do. I mean, you could do some various things, I guess, where you can just maybe put his arms through them, and he can, I don't know, kind of be like this. That doesn't look too bad, actually. Just kind of like a generic, powerful kind of thing. Actually, that doesn't. I can see how that could work. It's not quite what I thought it would be when they had the packaging. I thought they'd be able to like shoot out of his arms, but I guess this is just to give him kind of an engulfing electricity kind of look, which I guess that's okay. It's just not quite what I thought they were going for with, when I saw that, and just kind of what I was thinking. I was thinking they'd be able to shoot out of his fingers or hands, Emperor Palpatine style. I think that would have been kind of more my preference. And with how these are so soft, it would have been good just because, or not heavy, just so they won't like weigh him down or anything. But just that basic look, that looks okay. So you're gonna have his final battle with Spider-Man, reuniting with his old Amazing Spider-Man and get that kind of thing going. So it'd be really cool if I have the other villains to kind of showcase what the Sinister Five would look like together. So that's all that comes with Electro. So that means these hands, I guess it's really just for show. If you want to, I guess you can pose it in a way where it looks like he's doing, a kind of real shooting motion, which would be kind of a open hand kind of look. But it ultimately doesn't quite matter, because from what I see, and I don't want to look it up because it should be simple enough to just do it on your own. There's no real place, from what I see, that you just port these in. So with that in mind, that comes the question: is this worth $39? Because that's a hefty selling price for a regular, Marvel Studios type figure, and I would have to say no. It looks nice. The detail on the costume's really good. Maybe that's where the price comes in terms of these extra, tubes and the panels that they give him. Again, his costume was, not exactly a direct translation of his classic 60s look, but they got the core stuff of it down when it came to the mask, the yellow with the electricity, a few yellow in the costume, and that's not quite green in terms of the actual shirt, but I guess that's kind of accurate to the movie. It's not like he was bright green or whatever. So, it looks accurate, and there is some coolness behind the detail. But for $39, like I said, if I'm paying $39, I need something where I can really feel or see the difference. That comes again with this Marvel Legends Carnage from Let There Be Carnage. You see, this is a heavy, tall figure to where, you pay $39 for this one. It's like, okay, I can see why. Whereas this one, it's kind of just your regular Marvel Legends figure. I would probably understand paying more for, I don't know, Dr. Octopus or Green Goblin, things like that. But maybe, again, those have the same kind of heft or extra props that this does in terms of the glider. So maybe that's why. But for $39, unfortunately, I'd have to say no. Even though I do like the look of the figure, for me, though, in terms of the what they did with this electricity, as far as not being able to shoot it or there not being an official port where it goes. But I think for me, just the biggest issue is not being able to take the mask off. To me, that's kind of unacceptable, because he didn't always have that masked electricity look. That was only, he would have it for like a split second when he's charging it up. And it was a cool detail in terms of evoking original Electro, but I thought it would have been pretty cool if you could just have regular Max Dillon face, because it looks like the sculpt of it isn't too bad. I wonder what would happen if you just tried to peel this off. I'm not going to, but I think that's the major kind of disappointment, is not being able to take off that mask. But still, though, it's a hell of a lot better than original Amazing Spider-Man 2 Electro. This is another comparison. This is a figural keychain of Amazing Spider-Man 2 Electro, with just kind of that weird blue glowing kind of look, which is kind of what he looks like in Ultimate Spider-Man. But I appreciate invoking iconic original Electro from the movie. That's nice. So there's a comparison between these guys right here. This was definitely an upgrade. But for $39, I'm not sure. If actually no, I don't think so. If you really want to complete your No Way Home villains collection, which I did want to because I was only a couple figures away, sure. But that's only because I was only a couple figures away because of some figures I bought decades ago. So that's cool. As far as this on its own, fun for display in that reason, some good detail. But for $39, I'd have to give it a thumbs down, unfortunately. So those are my thoughts on Marvel Legends Spider-Man No Way Home Electro. Again, I saw this in the stores over at Downtown Disney, to be specific, but I've seen them over at Target. I'm not sure how hot an item it is, just because this No Way Home now is like 3+ years old. Probably would have been a bit more exciting had this come out a few years ago. So look out for this. I know that they have the Lizard either in stores or it's coming soon, so I'll probably end up getting that one to complete my No Way Home collection. So there you go. And there's one last look of him and Spidey in the background. So that'll do it for this round of They Took My Money, because they took my money in this case for Electro. But in this case, it wasn't really the best use of money, but it never is, to be honest. So that'll do it for this review of Electro. If you made it to the end of this review, thank you for watching.